Good morning. Welcome to Elizabeth Reads. We are on A Place Called Perfect, chapter 23. Welcome to Adequate. I see you found my den. William Archer's silhouette peered down from the trapdoor above. Yes, Violet replied, relieved it was William and not the watchers. Your drawings, they're amazing. Oh, that was all a long time ago, William said, brushing off the compliment. Now, come on, you better get out of here. It took a lot of persuading to get rid of those watchers, and I'm sure they'll be back. How did you get rid of them? Violet asked as she climbed back up into the room above. I told them I knew nothing. I haven't put a foot out of line in a long, long time, so nowadays the watchers believe me. William smiled half-heartedly. Several years ago, that would never have happened. Why not? Well, I didn't exactly lie low when I first came here, as you can see from my experiments. But I've been a good boy since. You might even call me perfect, he joked. Why did you stop? Violet asked. There was no reason left to fight, William sighed, closing the trapdoor and replacing the carpet. Now, you two better go. I don't want to get into trouble again after all these years. But please, Violet said, you could help. We saw the Reimaginator. We could fix perfect. Violet, Boy warned. Please, Violet said again. Please, Mr. Archer, we could do it. Now that we know about the tea and we have your invention and all your research, I know we could save perfect. We could save my family. Violet, let's go, Boy said, pulling her away. Please, Mr. Archer? Enough, Violet, William snapped. Perfect is fine as it is. I gave all that up long ago and I'm happier for it. I'm sorry about your father, but I'm afraid I can't help. You will have to suffer the same fate as the rest of us and get used to no man's land. The sooner you do that, the better for you. But you can help. I know you can. I can see you're not happy. Violet, you've gone too far now. You don't know me at all. Please, both of you leave. I've helped you enough. He herded the pair across his shop and out the door, leaving them alone in the road. Violet was devastated. She'd thought William Archer would be nice. She'd thought he would be different. It was now mid-morning, and both were extremely tired as they found their way back through the market yard and along one of those lanes coming out halfway down Forgotten Road. The streets were empty, so the watchers weren't hard to spot as they patrolled no man's land, making sure everyone was inside. Boy knew all the hiding places, and they avoided getting caught, sometimes by the narrowest of margins. Quickly they scuttled along in silence, stopping outside a large stone building near the end of Forgotten Road. We're here, Boy said. Everyone will be going to bed now, so you can stay today, and tonight we'll figure out what to do next. Where are we? Violet asked sleepily, her eyes struggling to stay open. My home, Boy smiled. The orphanage. I'll sneak you in and you can sleep in the playroom. It's better we don't tell anyone yet, just in case the watchers are looking for you. After a few days, when it's all blown over, I'll tell the nurses. I'm sure they'll give you a bed. But I don't want to live here, Boy, Violet panicked. I live with my Mam and Dad. I want to go home. Shh, Violet, please, Boy soothed, hugging his friend. We'll figure something out, but for today, you'll stay here. Boy tilted over a small marble bird bath that sat by the front door and pulled out a large rusted key. Quietly, he unlocked the door. Checking the coast was clear, they tiptoed down the enormous marble-tiled hallway, and Boy disappeared into a doorway on the left. In here, he whispered, his voice echoing in the silence. The room was sparse and cold. The ceiling seemed to stretch right to the sky. The walls were covered in plain white wallpaper, which was torn away in places, revealing years of chipped paint. A rickety bookcase holding a tiny collection of aging books and a small box of broken and tattered toys rested in one corner, the only decoration in the lonely space. The room was huge and empty and not anything like Violet's home, where she felt safe. Large wooden shutters rested by the sides of the windows, and Boy pulled them shut, blocking out as much daylight as was possible, until only slivers fell across the floor, and then he left to get some blankets. Seeking out a small space, Violet crouched down and nestled into the far corner of the cavernous room. Tiny footsteps sounded through the ceiling above as the orphans prepared for bed. Faint echoes of children's voices haunted the space, and a shiver danced down her spine. For comfort, she thought of home again, but she was wrong. She wasn't even safe there anymore. An image of her perfectly preened mother holding out 2 yellow pills flashed through her memory. Maybe she wasn't loved either. Tears watered her vision, and Boy was a blur as he tiptoed back into the room. Violet, he whispered. Over here, Boy. What are you doing? He laughed, finding her curled up in the corner. I don't know, she half smiled. It felt safer. Don't worry, you are safe. They don't let us play in here much, so you won't be disturbed. I'll come down before night to wake you. Here, take these. He handed her a worn blanket and pillow and left a cup of hot water and an apple on the floor beside her. Is this yours? She asked, looking at the blanket. I'll be fine, he replied. I never get cold anyway. No, I can't, Violet insisted, handing it back. I'm a boy, he laughed, running over to the door. We can take the cold. Boy, she called just as he was about to slip out. He turned and looked at her. Do you think we'll save my dad? The Archers know we've been in the estate now. What if they do something to him? He'll be fine, Violet, Boy whispered. The Archers need your dad, and they won't see us as a threat anyway. We're only kids. Don't worry, we'll figure something out. We'll save him. Violet smiled as her friend snuck quietly from the room. Even though she pretended she didn't, she needed him sometimes. Spreading the blanket out on the floor, she lay on top, grabbed the corner, and rolled, wrapping it tight around her narrow figure to make sure there were no air holes. It felt weird now not having to take off her glasses at bedtime. Then she pulled the pillow in under her head and fell asleep, exhausted. A rising cold took Violet from her sleep as the dim evening light filtered through the cracks in the shutters. There wasn't a sound in the huge house. Everyone must still be in bed. She lay awake, her mind whirring with worries, as her breath formed circles in the space above her head. Unable to fall back asleep, she sat up and scanned the room, spotting the small bookshelf in the corner. On the count of 3, she raced across the freezing tiles and surveyed the shelf. Most of the books were for young kids, and she had just picked one up when she noticed another tucked in behind it. This book was worn and tattered. It was called A History of Adequate, and a picture of what looked like Edward Street in Perfect rested proudly on the cover. She cradled it and raced back into the warmth of her blanket. Biting the apple Boy had left her, Violet opened the book. Welcome to Adequate, our perfect little town. She flicked through the pages. Adequate was definitely perfect. Violet recognized the streets, the shops, even some of the faces. Just one thing was different. Nothing was perfect and adequate. The town wasn't glossy. It was nice, lovely even, but it was normal. The people looked normal too. Good normal, not shiny at all. She turned the page and her breath caught. There was a picture of a wedding scene. A beautiful young couple stood at the center with their families either side. Behind them was the town hall in Perfect. The caption read, Macula Lashes and William Archer, son of Iris and the late Arnold Archer, residents of Adequate, surrounded by family on their wedding day. Boo! Violet leapt from her bed, dropping the book. Got you, Boy laughed. Boy! Violet snapped, catching her breath. What if I'd screamed or something? Sorry. Boy looked a little ashamed, but your face was hilarious. Violet forced a smile, sat down on the blanket, and picked up the book. I didn't know you could read, Boy teased. Stop messing about, Boy. You have to see this. I think I know how we'll get William to help us. No, Violet, Boy replied, suddenly serious. He doesn't want to help us. I could see that yesterday. You can't force him. We'll find another way. But I'm telling you, he'll want to, Violet said, pushing the book under his nose. Look. Is that William? Boy said, running his finger over the picture. On his wedding day? That's hilarious. Look at the faces on George and Edward. They don't seem too happy. Oh, yeah, I didn't see them. They look like they'd prefer to be anywhere else, Violet smiled. What about her? She said, pointing to William's bride. What about her? She's the woman I met. Which woman? When did you meet her? When you were in that house in the ghost estate, the one I rescued you from. I rescued you too, you know. It's not a competition, Boy. Anyway, she was the woman in the room across the hall, the one I told you about. She's a bit older now, but it's definitely her. Really? You're sure? What would she be doing there if she's William's wife? Well, how do I know? Maybe the Archers kidnapped her, but she wasn't locked in. She didn't want to leave the room. She said there was nothing to leave for. William said the same in his house, remember? He said they took everything from him and that's why he won't fight. Maybe she's the everything they took. That still doesn't mean he'll help us. But when he finds out where she is, he'll want to rescue her, Violet said. Then maybe he'll help us rescue Dad too. I think he just needs a little push to get brave again. Get brave again, that's a good way of putting it. What happened to the scared Violet? I think she's turned into a monster, Boy joked. She elbowed Boy in the ribs and smiled, climbing up from the floor. Come on, let's get William brave again. And that's the end of chapter 23. Join me next time for chapter 24. Bye-bye.